Okay, I'm back. This is the third video in the Spanish sentence forming series. We're still at the basic level, and the focus verb for today will be hablar. Hablar means to speak or to talk. It will also be our paradigm AR verb. So I'm going to say some preliminary remarks. It's like a page worth of stuff that I wrote down, and then I'll get to the exercises and the grammar instruction here. So you can jump ahead if you don't want to listen to the preliminary stuff. Okay, so Spanish divides its verbs into three groups according to their infinitive endings. So as we see with hablar, hablar has an infinitive ending of AR. Then there are ER verbs, such as comer, which means to eat, which will be our paradigm ER verb. It's a regular verb. Hablar is a regular verb. And then IR verbs, our paradigm verb will be vivir, which means to live. We're not going to see comer and vivir for a long time. And this is kind of the point of what I'm going to explain today. So, but before I get there, let me continue. Most Spanish verbs are regular. Okay, so once you learn how to conjugate hablar, it's nothing to conjugate the other AR verbs in Spanish, and there's a bunch of them. Okay, so yes, Spanish has more grammar than English. We have more grammar rules, but Spanish is mostly regular. And even the things that are irregular in Spanish are mostly regular. So, like, you might have to make one small change or two small changes, but then everything else is going to match to the other regular verbs, let's say. Okay, continue. So this is what I want to get at today. I'm taking a new approach to teaching Spanish. I think it's a better approach, and yeah, hopefully it will bear fruit with you guys who take the study seriously. So what I'm going to do, or what we're going to do, is to first master our paradigm AR verb hablar. You have to know hablar, like it has to roll off the tip of it has to roll off your tongue when you want to conjugate hablar. Yo hablo, tú hablas, él habla, nosotros hablamos, ustedes hablan, ellos hablan. Kind of that fast, right, when you need it. So, but we're just going to work with hablar for a long time and the different forms of hablar for a long time. That way, we can just stick to one verb, right? We can stick to one verb. We don't have to worry about other verbs, and we can keep the vocabulary to a minimum because the goal is to instill the grammar. And then once you have the grammar, we can add vocabulary, and then we can plug and play by switching out vocabulary words into the different parts of the sentences that we know how to form already. Okay, so once we get comfortable conjugating hablar on the fly, we'll increase the sophistication of our sentences. For example, we'll include direct object nouns. We'll do that today. We'll include direct object pronouns. We won't do that today. We'll include indirect objects. We won't do that today. And indirect object pronouns. We won't do that today. We'll grow our grammar with all with respect to regular AR verbs like hablar. So we'll be learning other regular AR verbs down the road, which will be easy once you have mastered hablar. It's nothing to conjugate a verb, another AR verb that's regular once you know hablar. That's nothing. It's really nothing to do. Okay. The idea is that once you've mastered all this grammar with AR verbs, it's nothing to do so with regular ER and IR verbs. Transitioning from an AR verb to an ER verb is simple. Transitioning from an ER verb to an IR verb is simple. So really the key is just to master one of the verbs, and we're starting with hablar. Because all you're doing basically is changing the AR endings to the ER endings, and that's easy to do. And then the ER endings and the IR endings are almost identical in every respect. So it's really easy to do. Okay. So I already mentioned my rationale, and this way I can simplify the instruction. by limiting ourselves to one type of verb, the AR verb for now, and later expanding our grammar with relatively easy steps such as conjugating ER and IR verbs. Okay, that's the rationale. Those are the preliminary remarks. Let's get to conjugating hablar in the present tense, active form. I don't say active, but we're doing active verbs where the subject is performing the action. Okay, so our paradigm AR verb is hablar. I put the infinitive ending in blue, and I put the personal subject endings in red below. Hablar means to speak or to talk. Yo hablo. Yo hablo. By now you already know the person the right now you already know the subject pronoun, so you know it means I speak. Tú hablas. Tú hablas. You speak. Él habla. Él habla. He speaks. Nosotros hablamos. Nosotros hablamos. We speak. Ustedes hablan. Ustedes hablan. You guys speak. Ellos hablan. Ellos hablan. They speak. And below you can see I have the ella habla and usted habla, which is the polite you. And also below the ellos, I have the ellas hablan. Okay, but we want the nice, neat chart. Yo hablo, tú hablas, él habla. Nosotros hablamos, ustedes hablan, ellos hablan. You should repeat that. You should get the rhythm. You should be able to like, yeah, you just get the rhythm down. It's kind of like, think of it like poetry, right? You're reading one line and another line, and has some kind of like meter, like A, B, A, B, A, B, or whatever, right? So, yo hablo, tú hablas, él habla. Yo hablo, tú hablas, él habla. Yo hablo, tú hablas, él habla. Okay, I hope you're shadowing me. Next, we'll do the plurals now. Nosotros hablamos, ustedes hablan, ellos hablan. Nosotros hablamos, ustedes hablan, ellos hablan. Nosotros hablamos, ustedes hablan, ellos hablan. Okay, here we go. And by the way, when you form sentences, when it's your turn to generate your own sentences, do them aloud. You have to exercise your mind and mouth connection and speak the language, and you'll be able to do it faster and faster the more you practice speaking. It's not that you don't already know how to conjugate. You already know yo hablo and tú hablas. You know how to change the hablar to hablo because of yo, and you know how to change hablar to hablas because of tú. That's a given. What's not a given is that you can do this at natural conversation speed, and you can do it when you need to make sentences that you're thinking of, right? Like you just pull it because you can do it just like as easily as you do. As easily when I say to you buenos dias, you just say back buenos dias. When I say cómo estás, you say muy bien, right? And so when I say, how do you say they speak, you're like ustedes hablan. Can you do it that fast? That's what we want to get to. But that takes practice of you speaking the language, not just understanding it, not just reading it and knowing what you're reading. All right. So again, this point of this exercise is for you to speak these things and produce them as fast as you can. Don't rush, think about it, but eventually you'll get faster the more you do it. All right. So this is practice for you to speak. Okay. Now, because we're going to get to now, you've already seen lesson 1 with ser, you've seen lesson 2 with estar. We're going to add, and you already know how to do this. And by the way, I've added no new grammar. I've added no new vocabulary. I've added no new words other than hablar. But I am making full use of list 2, which was list 1 plus extra to make list 2. So the vocabulary, if you don't know some of the vocabulary we're using, And again, I'm using some vocabulary that's going to be intuitive, so I don't feel like I need to introduce it to you or to have introduced it to you prior. You'll know it when you see it. All right. So number one, the first thing we're going to do is add a direct object noun, not pronoun, a noun, because in Spanish, the nouns are placed differently in the sentence than the pronouns are. So it's in English there is no difference, but in Spanish there is a difference. So we're going to add nouns. And because we want to start speaking like natives, we want to use native speaking habits, we're going to omit the subject pronoun because in Spanish we don't include the subject pronoun unless we're using it for emphasis or unless we're using it for contrast or unless it's needed because the context doesn't give us is not specific enough, right? So there's a little play here as to what counts as like do I have enough context here? Can I omit it or can I not omit it or should I include the pronoun? We'll just use a general practice here, but in real life conversations it'll be clear. But because here we have real no context, it's just sentences that we're pulling out of the blue. I'll give you an example of what I mean. So let's go. Let's do some practice here. Hablo inglés. Notice there's no subject yo. It would be very strange unless, again, you're emphasizing or you're contrasting to say yo hablo inglés. So, do you know hablo inglés? I'm not going to type this out in English because I can just say it in English and you'll understand. I'll type it out when it's Spanish so that you can see it and then you're sure that like what I've said matches what you think you heard. Okay, so hablo inglés. I speak English. And English should have an accent mark, by the way. Um, Let me go to my Spanish keyboard. Inglés. Hablo inglés. Hablas japonés. It's not a question. It's a statement. Hablas japonés. Okay. You speak Japanese. I hope that wasn't too hard to figure out. Él. Where are all my accent marks today? Él habla español. Él habla español. He speaks Spanish. Ella habla castellano. Ella habla castellano. By the way, castellano is Castilian, which is Spanish. If you go to a country like South America, do not ask them if they speak Spanish. Do not tell them that they speak Spanish. They will not accept that. They speak Castilian. In Peru, we say hablo castellano, or we'll ask you, hablas castellano. We don't use the word español. We use castellano. Okay, so ella habla castellano, she speaks castellano. Hablamos chino. Hablamos chino. We speak Chinese. And so notice again for the third person singular, it's most likely that you're going to use the él and ella. Again, if you're talking about your friend Tommy and you're going back and forth about Tommy and you just want to say he speaks Spanish, you can just say, oh, habla español, and then it'll be understood that you're saying Tommy speaks Spanish. But it's perfectly normal also to throw in the él and the ella. Even even if you guys are talking about Tommy and it's going to be clear, él habla español is also perfectly acceptable. So it's usually for the third person singular that we will throw in the pronouns él and ella. Okay, those are usually the only two real times that we have to like specify which one we mean. Okay, but again, it's going to be context. Number 6. Hablan ruso. So here, hablan could be you guys. Like in context, you're telling a group of people of two or more, you guys speak Russian. Okay, that can be done. It's just weird to tell people what they speak, right? That's like me saying to you, you speak English. And you're like, yeah, why are you telling me that? I already know that. Like, why are you stating the obvious, something about myself to me? So, hablan ruso could mean you guys speak Russian, or it could mean they speak Russian, because hablan is the ending for ustedes and for ellos and ellas. Okay, so it might mean that it might be that you need to specify. You might need to say like, ellos hablan ruso, pero ellas hablan japonés. Ellos hablan ruso, pero ellas hablan japonés. Did you understand me? Ellos hablan ruso, pero ellas hablan japonés. They speak Russian, these guys, but these girls, speak Japanese. Okay. Ellos hablan italiano. Ellos hablan italiano. They speak Italian. Ellas hablan francés. Ellas hablan francés. They speak French. No hablo japonés. Excuse me. No hablo japonés. I don't speak Japanese. María no habla ruso. María no habla ruso. Maria doesn't speak Russian. Говорю по-русски. Niet. Juan y Pablo hablan italiano. Juan y Pablo hablan italiano. Juan and Pablo speak Italian. Juan and Pablo speak Italian. Mi mamá habla francés. Mi mamá habla francés. My mom speaks French. Mis hermanos no hablan inglés. Mis hermanos no hablan inglés. My brothers, by the way, hermanos could also be siblings. So you could be saying my siblings don't speak English, or you can be saying my brothers don't speak English. Mis hermanos no hablan inglés. Tu amigo habla ruso bien. Tu amigo habla ruso bien. Your friend speaks Russian well. Your friend speaks Russian well. Tus hermanas hablan inglés mal. Tus hermanas hablan inglés mal. Your sisters speak English poorly. Your sisters speak English poorly. Mal here could be, mal generally means bad, but in this context, because it's talking about speaking, it's an adverb, so it means poorly. Just like good, right? Just like bien can be well or good or fine. Okay. 16. El hombre habla francés y italiano. El hombre habla francés y italiano. I put E here because it's the only and that we have. But normally this would be el hombre habla francés e italiano. Is that right? Okay, let's just leave it alone. There's another way to say and in Spanish. It's with the letter E, which we pronounce e, which depends on what sounds that you are uniting. But here we're just gonna stick to the E because this is the only one we have, and it's not the point of this grammar, so it's fine. El hombre habla francés y italiano. Hablamos italiano, pero no francés. Hablamos italiano, pero no francés. We speak Italian, but not French. We speak Italian, but not French. Ellos hablan inglés, pero no español. Ellos hablan inglés, pero no español. Okay. They speak English, but not Spanish. They speak English, but not Spanish. Hablan inglés. I put the parentheses ustedes because you can say it or you can leave it out because it's clear from the context. Right. Um, okay. Well, maybe it's not clear from the context, but it could be clear from context. Hablan inglés. So if you're talking to 2 or 3 people and you're asking if they speak English, hablan inglés. And if you wanted to make it clear, it would be clear in context, but you can also throw in the ustedes. Even if it's clear from context that you're addressing them, you can still say hablan inglés ustedes or ustedes hablan inglés with the right intonation, right? But okay, so hablan inglés is the more common way without the ustedes. Not that the throwing in the ustedes is not wrong, and it's not wrong even in the context would be clear that you're addressing them. You could still throw in ustedes. Habla español. Who's being addressed here? Habla español. There's a few choices, right? This is the third person singular. Habla. Well, it matches so it could be does he speak Spanish? Does she speak Spanish? Or do you, in the polite sense, usted, speak Spanish? Right? Again, context will tell you. Hablas español? Here, there's only one option. You're addressing the person you're talking to, and that person is at the very most your peer, not your superior, not some older gentleman or lady, right? Or it could be your friend, right? So hablas, this is the informal tú. Hablas, but we wouldn't throw in the tú. We wouldn't say hablas español tú or tú hablas. You can say tú hablas español, but again, that's specifying. That's kind of like yeah. That's contrasting. You wouldn't need it. Just say hablas español. Do you speak Spanish? And if you're being polite, like you're meeting a stranger for the first time, habla español or habla inglés. Okay, 22. Hablo inglés, español y japonés. Hablo inglés, español y japonés. That's my dream. I got English and Spanish, but I'm working on Japanese. But I'm still far. Okay, anyways. Hablo inglés, español y japonés. All right, that's it. So again, the purpose of this is so that you are very comfortable conjugating and understand. Well, it's not understanding this. This I expect for you to know. I expect that when I say hablas español, you know what I'm saying. I expect when I say hablo inglés, you know what I'm saying. This is one step to our goal. That when I give you the English, you can produce the Spanish. Okay, so now let's see. I speak Spanish poorly. I'll give you time to think about how you would say this. Again, I want you to omit the pronoun. Don't say yo. Omit the subject pronoun when, yeah, in the vast majority of contexts, you wouldn't need to say it. I speak I speak Spanish poorly. Okay, I guess I'll type this out for you, as I said I would. Hablo español mal. Of course, it's not giving me the ñ. Okay, there we go. I speak Spanish a little. By the way, a little is un poco. If you have, I don't know if I gave it to you as the main vocabulary. I think I didn't, but I'm giving it to you now. Un poco is a little. So we'll throw this at the end. So I speak Spanish a little. So same. Hablo español un poco. Hablo, that's how we speak in English, in American English, Spanish. Hablo español un poco. You can put that un poco in front of the español. You can say hablo un poco español, but it's also very common to put it at the end. And I think it yeah, just get used to putting it at the end, I think. Just pick one way here. She doesn't speak English. Sorry, she doesn't speak Spanish. And again, for the third person singular, for he and she, we're going to want to specify. So we want to throw in the pronoun probably here. She doesn't speak Spanish. Ella doesn't speak no habla español. Please, it's not giving me the, oh, finally, it's giving me the, I don't have to do anything, but just click this, great. Okay, this one is going to be a little long, so I'll put it below. We don't speak Japanese, but we speak Spanish. We do not speak Japanese. How do we say we do not speak Japanese? Again, do not give me the nosotros. So how do we say we don't speak Japanese? No hablamos japonés, but we speak Spanish. Pero hablamos español. That's a very common way to say this sentence. There's slightly different ways, but not important. We're good enough with our good grammar and our good Spanish. Juan speaks Spanish, English, and Japanese. Juan habla inglés, japonés, y, sorry, I got the wrong order. Español, what the heck? Inglés y japonés. Thank you, Google or Microsoft. Okay. Maria speaks Spanish, English, but not Japanese. Maria speaks Spanish, English, but not Japanese. Maria habla, third person singular. Spanish, español. English, inglés. Pero what? How do we say but not Japanese? The most common way, well, there's different ways you can say this. You can actually say, I'll give you three ways. I'll give you the most common and then the other ways. Japonés, I don't know if you remember last time, we just throw in the no at the end. Right? Remember sí, and then we had another sentence with no at the end. That's all we're doing here. That's all you need to do. Okay, but you can also say María habla español, inglés, pero no habla. You can actually repeat the verb japonés. So, and this is common. We're kind of wordy in Spanish. Like in English, we would never repeat the same verb in the sentence like this. And you can also say María habla español, inglés, pero no japonés. This is also, oh, thank you for fixing my typo here. Oh, it didn't fix everything. I put hable. I don't know why I did that. Okay, so all these are all of these are all good Spanish, by the way. It's not like one is worse than the other. I'm just giving you from probably what I think is the most common way. But it's not a big difference. It's like one is vastly more common than the other. So any of these that you choose, but we've been learning with a no at the end as a way to just put the negation here. This is a perfectly good way. Okay. Now, how would you ask, do you speak Spanish if you were saying it to an older person? So how would you ask this respectfully, basically? Do you speak English? Habla inglés. Because, where am I here? Oops. Because this is the usted. And you can throw in, okay, let me click this English first. You can throw in the usted, by the way. It's polite. It's perfectly acceptable to throw in the word usted. ¿Habla inglés usted? Or ¿usted habla inglés? ¿Usted habla inglés? habla inglés usted. I think it's a little bit more polite to put the usted first. Usted habla inglés. It sounds a little bit more polite than habla inglés usted. But it's not impolite. It just sounds a tiny bit more polite to put the usted first. But leaving out the usted is perfectly acceptable because it's clear that you're being polite because you said habla, right? That can't be anything else. When you're addressing the other person, it can't be anything else on the polite you. Okay, so um, let me copy and paste. So in order to do this, uh, oops. Yeah, so you can, I'll just keep the capital H, but it wouldn't be capital if you actually said usted. Yeah, either way, you can do it like this. Usted habla inglés or habla inglés usted. Either way. Okay. Well, again, the parentheses is optional. Do you speak English? If you said it to a peer, right? Or like a friend, right? Or like a maybe, I think coworker would be acceptable if you're on good terms. So more just like in the casual way. And this is going to be, since I have this already, hablas inglés, hablas inglés. That's what the hablas corresponds to the tú, which is the informal you. Hablas inglés. And how about, do you speak English said to two people? You're addressing two people. How would you say that? I won't put the answer yet. Two people. So the pronoun that you would use to address two people is ustedes, right? So then the ustedes has to have the hablan. Hablan, and you can throw in the ustedes if you want, but you don't need to. Right. Hablan inglés. You're addressing them. Hablan inglés. Okay. And you could throw the ustedes in the front of the hablan. Ustedes hablan inglés? It's fine. Hablan inglés ustedes? It's fine. Hablan inglés, as long as it's clear, which it should be in context, it's fine. Okay. They don't speak, I'll put this one below. They don't speak Japanese, but they speak a little Spanish. They, let's just take it as the masculine. Ellos don't speak. No hablan. Oops. Japonés. Hopefully it'll give me the. But, pero. They speak. You don't need. Okay. Pero hablan. You don't need the ellos again. Once you put ellos, you've specified who you're talking about. Okay, but we do, like I said, we're a little bit wordy in Spanish. It's very common to throw in the verb again. This wouldn't be done in English. You wouldn't use the same verb twice. Okay. Pero hablan. You can say un poco, but we're just doing it with a poco at the end. Pero hablan español un poco. Okay, but again, it's very common to see the un poco before the español. Okay, like I said, that's why it wants me to switch it over, but I'm not going to. No, it doesn't need to be un poco. I don't want to do it because I don't want to say de, and we haven't learned de, and so this is perfectly acceptable Spanish, perfectly good Spanish. Okay, ellos no hablan japonés, pero hablan español un poco. That's perfectly good Spanish. Don't let Microsoft fool you into thinking I'm not giving you good Spanish. If you throw in the un poco, then you have to say un poco de español, but we haven't learned de, so we don't need to. We can sidestep de for now. Okay, and still be speaking perfectly good Spanish. Okay, so You speak English well. Hablas inglés bien. Hablas inglés bien. Okay. And that's informal you speak. Let's put this below. Let's scroll up. Pablo and Carlos speak Spanish at school. Pablo and Carlos speak Spanish at school. So Pablo y Carlos. This is plural, third person, they, like would be they. Pablo and Carlos is a they, basically. Hablan español at school. Do you remember school? En la what? Did I do that right? No, I two ends. En la escuela. En la escuela. English, we wouldn't throw that. Remember, I don't know. I mean, you guys are English speakers, but like for almost everything, for example, let me do a quick lesson, and this will help Spanish speakers too. I went to the market. I went to the beach. Right? For everything, I went to the hospital. For everything, every like object here, we have the to and the. We use the to and the, right? And let's put the to in the blue. This is the expression for almost all the places that you will say something like I went to blah blah. Okay. But there are four exceptions in English. Uh, maybe there's more, but there's four that we really use over and over again. Like there might be other exceptions, but they don't come to mind. So, and these are the places that traditionally Americans used to go to a lot. And so, because we use these expressions all the time, we started to like abbreviate the way we said it. So we don't say I went to the school. We actually just we take away the. We don't need it. I went to the church. We don't say that anymore. We just take away the. I don't need it. Um, I went to the work. We don't say that anymore. We take away the. We don't need it. And what is the most common place that we go to? I went to uh, the home. We don't need the and we don't need to. I just say I went home. Okay, but the grammar for Spanish doesn't necessarily follow these conventions in English. So that's why you will still see la escuela, but you won't, right? Okay, sorry. You will still see la escuela in Spanish, but in English we will drop the, right? We won't have the that corresponds to the la. Okay, so this is just a bit of English grammar. I teach ESL too. All right, let's go. I speak Spanish at home. I speak Spanish at home. Hablo, uh, hablo inglés en casa. En casa. En casa. At home. En casa. I should have gave you more time for that because I feel like this was a little bit tricky to get. Okay, next. Your tall friend. Remember tall? You guys remember tall? It's part of the vocabulary we already have, so I'm not giving you anything new. Your tall friend speaks Japanese well. Okay. Tu amigo, generally, but it's not like a very strict rule. Adjectives follow the nouns they modify in Spanish. In English, we would say tall friend. In Spanish, we would say friend tall. But we can reverse the order. Okay. Tu amigo, if it's a masculine, if it's amigo a friend, obviously it's amigo friend. Obviously it's amigo masculine because it ends with a. Tu amigo alto habla japonés bien. Tu amigo alto habla japonés bien. I think this one we need to put below because it's not gonna. Your tall female friend speaks Spanish poorly. Tu amiga alta habla español mal. Okay. You guys speak English well. Oops, I almost put the you guys. You guys speak English well. You guys speak. That's right. We won't say that ustedes, which I almost did. Hablan inglés bien. Hablan inglés bien. You guys speak English well. Question. Do they speak English? Do they speak English? I'll give you two ways of saying this. So I'll put it below so you can see it. And they're both common ways. That's why I want to give it to you. Okay. So do they speak English? You can just ask, ¿hablan inglés? What keyboard am I in here? Oh, Spanish. Okay. ¿Hablan inglés? And inglés is conjugated. Okay. But it's also very common. Actually, let me copy and paste this. It's also very common to throw in the pronoun here. But there's different places we can do that. But you can actually put the pronoun here. ¿Hablan ellos inglés? You can put the pronoun there. You can also put the pronoun in the beginning. Ellos hablan inglés. Again, it's all about intonation. And you can actually put the ellos. Actually, but the ellos can go almost anywhere. Ellos hablan inglés. I'll give you one more. Oh yeah, I don't need a capital H then. Okay, so this is the flexibility of an inflected language. You can move. The word order isn't so strict. Okay, so all four actually are perfectly good Spanish. Do they speak English? In context, you're talking about some group of people and and it's clear that you're going to refer to them, you can just ask, ¿hablan inglés? Yeah, they speak English would be the answer, right? Sí, hablan inglés. Yes, they speak English. Or, ¿hablan ellos inglés? ¿Hablan ellos inglés? Perfectly good Spanish. ¿Ellos hablan inglés? Perfectly good Spanish. ¿Hablan inglés ellos? Perfectly good Spanish. Just a subtle intonation difference, but it's nothing major. And like, yeah, but just so you know, right? All these options are perfectly good. So yeah, okay. Does he speak Spanish? Okay, now you're specifying. Well, yeah, you don't need to specify it, but you can just ask. If it's clear in context, you can just ask, ¿habla inglés? Meaning, does he speak Spanish? Right? But again, you can throw in the pronoun to make it clear. Uh, uh, you can throw it at the end if you want. Oops, where's the habla inglés él? Or habla él? That's kind of a stranger one. Él habla inglés is probably, I would say, probably a little bit more common. So let's put that one as our oop. Él habla inglés is probably the most common way to ask it. With the AOS, it sounds a little bit different. Okay, so there. Last two. Let's put this one below. Can you do this? I'll give you a little time. I feel like I'm kind of rushing things. She doesn't speak Spanish, but she speaks English and Japanese well. She doesn't speak Spanish, but she speaks English and Japanese well. Again, we'll put the pronoun ella no habla español, pero Perú. Oh, pero. Oh, it took away my option. Damn you, Microsoft. Oh, what did I do? Am I not in the Spanish keyboard? It's. Oh, I just need this. Ella no habla español, pero, and we would repeat the verb in Spanish, pero habla inglés y japonés bien. And yes, thank you. Accent, accent. Okay, last one. Here we go. This is a slightly different one. You don't speak Spanish, right? This is a negative question. You don't speak Spanish? So it's pretty easy. It's just you haven't seen it before, but no hablas inglés? Sorry, no hablas español? Uh, oops. I always forget what the question marks go exactly. Here we go. I mean, where they are on the keyboard, not where they go in the sentence. ¿No hablas español? ¿No hablas español? All right, that's it. Okay, so again, I hope you were speaking aloud. I hope you were producing these on your own and you were somewhat keeping in time as far as how fast I was giving you the answers. The whole point is to put this to memory, to just to know this inside and out, have it like at the ready for recall, part of your active vocabulary, part of your active grammar. All we've done with this basic yo hablo or él habla is to throw in a direct object noun, and we did it by choosing different languages. Inglés, japonés, español, castellano, italiano, chino, ruso. And on most occasions, Spanish speakers will omit the subject pronoun because the verb gives you the subject, because it's an inflected language and the verb has the subject ending on it. In some cases, it might still be vague, and in those cases, we will eliminate the vagueness by throwing in the pronoun like él or ella. Or when we ask a question, we can throw in the ustedes if we feel like there's some kind of vagueness going on. Right. Okay, so that's it. Like, how quickly were you able to do how quickly were you able to go from you guys speak English well and to say hablan inglés bien, right? That's the goal. Now, the next video, upcoming, I'll just say a few remarks here. Upcoming, oops, I go back to English. Upcoming is still, we're sticking with hablar, right? We're gonna stick with hablar, uh, but we're going to add direct object pronouns. Where do they go? Where do they go? Right. And then we're going to add maybe a few prepositions such as de, for example. And we're going to add more regular AR verbs. For example, amar and like to love or to like, right? To love, to like. It's more to love. Okay. Because it's regular and then we can just say more things, but we have the conjugations at the ready. And then we'll expand, we're gonna continue to expand our grammar in different ways. I don't want to specify all the ways now, and I don't have it in mind, but I know roughly what I want to do. Okay, that's it. And so we're gonna stick to the AR verb. The next like 3 or 4 videos are just going to be with hablar and other regular AR verbs, but we're going to add indirect object pronouns, direct object pronouns, indirect objects. We're going to add what's it called? Subordinate clauses. We're going to add different kinds of conjunctions. We're going to add different kinds of adverbs. And we're just going to grow our sentences using regular AR verbs. And then once we do like 4 videos of that and our grammar gets maybe 5 videos of AR verbs and expanding the grammar with AR verbs, once we have the grammar down, then we'll just switch over to the ER verbs, and the ER verbs will just be 2 videos and we'll cover the same stuff because it's so easy to make the transition. And then IR videos, same thing. We'll just make 2 videos of IR regular verbs and we cover all the same grammar we covered with like 5 or 6 videos in Hablar as we learn the grammar. But we will have already learned the grammar, so we can just do a whole bunch a lot faster. Okay, and then after all that, we'll start doing some irregular verbs and some like specific things like maybe switching over to the subjunctive mood, maybe doing commands, maybe doing indirect questions or indirect statements, things like that. Anyway, that's it. Okay, I don't want to, I'm rambling. All right, that's it. So I hope this was fruitful and that you are following and doing the exercises aloud. Because if you're not, like, you won't be able to judge whether this is going to work. Like, if you're not doing the exercises, like, I would love to hear feedback from anyone who follows along and is doing it, and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm learning, or I'm kind of still struggling, or like whatever. Like, but that would be like useful information to me. But if you're not doing the exercises, or you're not doing it aloud, then your input's worthless, basically. All right, see you guys. Let's leave it on that negative note. Later. I gotta go.